It's the boy, Bubba, let's coming through. Hella clutch, flawless, can't be touched. It's your boy, Bubba, let's. Yeah, I need that hot take. I need the truth and everything that is not fake. So tell me.
Welcome back, Bubba Bunch, to another episode of the Bubba Lutz Sports Podcast, episode 170, joined again by Alex Navarro. Back again, finally. It's been a little bit. We've missed a lot of NBA action, but the reason why we're here is a preparation for the NBA Finals inside the bubble. It's the Miami Heat versus the LA Lakers, who, honestly, when we look back at some of the episodes we've done together, it is the matchup that we actually thought was going to happen.
Yep, we certainly. I think both of us ended up calling. It was the Lakers and the Lakers and the Heat, right?
We were for sure on the Lakers bandwagon because we were just not behind the Clippers, and we were. I mean, the Miami Heat were our dark horse team. I think it was either going to be the Heat or the Raptors, and I mean, we ended up getting a really good Eastern Conference Finals with the Heat and the Celtics, but the Heat just continue to surprise people. And Tyler Hero, if you want a hero,
20 years old, right?
Man, averaging more than 20 a game. And
Okay, before we get started with the podcast, somebody's going to eventually ask, or somebody's going to have to go ahead and put out there. I don't know if more than likely somebody has, but the fact that look at all the talent that's already gone through Kentucky, and Calipari won one national championship, only one, and he's had so much talent go through there, so much talent. And he's only been able, and then the year he walked away with it was whenever he had Anthony Davis. So you look at that and you're like, you've got to be. It's the amount of talent that man has gone through there. You've heard the story about Tyler Hero, right? That he's from Wisconsin.
No, I did not.
Okay, so he's from Wisconsin. He ended up actually originally committing to Wisconsin. He backed out.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Right. So he backed out, and whenever he backed out, he ended up signing for Kentucky. So two things ended up happening. The state of Wisconsin essentially ended up just kind of giving him death threats because he didn't want to play for the Badgers. Stupid as that sounds, but that's what ended up happening. The second one, somebody asked him, he's like, well, why do you want to play in Kentucky? He's like, because I want to play for Calipari and get drafted.
Right.
Which is pretty much the reason why everybody wants to play in Kentucky nowadays, right?
I mean, it gets you to this point to where on both sides there's Kentucky alumni. There's Wildcats across the board. So you can't blame anybody for that, and you definitely can't blame Calipari. That is just recruiting genius and a program that does very well for that. But it speaks volume when you have guys that are stepping up in the playoffs, and even a guy like Tyler Hero that is good but has reached a whole nother level to his game against the best competition.
I'm not ready to crown him, the new prince, but let's kind of see where it goes.
I will,
because I'm a little curious as to how the guards are going to go ahead and play Hero. I'm kind of curious how Alex Caruso they're going to go ahead and play him, because think about it. It's not like the Lakers haven't faced quality offensive opponents. First round, they ended up going up against Portland. Portland's got Damian Lillard. Second round, they went up against Houston. So Houston has James Harden.
Every guard in the planet is on the Houston Rockets.
Yeah, so and then you go up against Jamal Murray now. So you look at that, and all of a sudden it's like you start realizing that it's not like the Lakers haven't been playing strong guards. They have. So I'm curious as to how they're going to play him. I'm really curious as to how they're going to go ahead and play Tyler Hero. At the end of the day, he is 20 years old, and this is going to be his first finals. Now, is he going to do the same thing that he did to Boston? I don't know. I had a friend of mine that maybe one of these days we'll bring him on the podcast. But I had a friend of mine that said it's interesting how. Oh no, actually no. We were talking about it, and Charles Barkley said this point that Miami plays like a team. That whenever you look at the lineups that Boston had and the Miami Heat had. When you look at the players on each team, Boston is a significantly better team on paper.
Right.
But Barkley said it's almost like they take turns being the man. So it's like at one point it'll be Kemba Walker, the next one it'll be Tatum, the next one it'll be Jaylen Brown, the next one's going to be Marcus Smart. and they rotate like this game where it's like instead of just kind of playing together as a team, and I think that's where Miami caught them. Miami caught them because they just played better as a team. And I think that's the one thing whenever you get to this level, it's like, and that's kind of one of the reasons why LeBron James has been so successful, because he figures out how to play as a team, and he's known even whenever he had those crappy teams in Cleveland, and he was able to make the NBA Finals with some of those horrible teams, but he knew I need those guys to be able to step up because obviously one person can't do it on his own. Michael Jordan taught us that in the 80s whenever he was playing, and he ended up starting to make the playoffs.
Right. It's an amazing thing because there are a few stats. Like one stat that really stood out to me earlier before this podcast was this is the first time in NBA history to where two teams are in the finals that didn't make the playoffs last year.
Yes,
incredible to think of that. But you look at first year with Frank Vogel in LA, amazing turnaround, and it looks like a team. It's not just LeBron and company; it is a full team that you can.
Their third choice. Remember, he was their third choice for the coach.
Yes,
he was there. He wasn't their first choice. It was Tyronn Lue. It was Monty Williams, who actually the other way. You got to flip him, I think. Monty Williams, who ended up signing for Phoenix. Tyronn Lue, and then it was Frank Vogel. And remember, Frank Vogel played in Indiana when Indiana and Miami used to have those battles in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Right.
So he's well aware. He's well aware of what Miami's going to go ahead and do.
Two coaches that know LeBron so well now go against each other. And Frank Vogel, that I think is the best option out of those three that you just named because he brought defense, which is like offensively, they're fine. They were going to be fine from the very beginning because Anthony Davis and LeBron, they'll get you 70, 80 points easy in any game, any given night. But it's the defense that has made this team the number one seed. And then you look on the other side, Erik Spoelstra, who played LeBron for so many years and built him into the king that he is now. Because for me, before he got to Miami, he wasn't mature yet. He knew how to play. But I feel like that experience in Miami really helped him grow and go back to Cleveland and say, this is what we need to do to win, not just win games. We need to win a championship.
Yeah.
And he probably knows best how to defend LeBron. There was one matchup that they had back in Cleveland for LeBron after he went back, and Miami won by 19 with basically nobody other than D Wade, because he knew how to defend LeBron. He built a wall of like three guys, covered the wings, and stopped him. He created turnovers. LeBron was uncomfortable when he tried to push and drive to the paint. He wasn't getting fouls because they knew how to defend at a fundamental level. And that is all coaching for that.
This is going to be your biggest difference, I think, going into this series is one, I'm kind of curious how more than likely they're going to probably end up starting Jimmy Butler on LeBron. Jimmy Butler's got the size and the strength to figure something out. You're not gonna stop him there, but maybe there's an opportunity to go to slow him down. Then you have Andre Iguodala coming off the bench. Mm-hmm. But your biggest difference is going to be this: in those Cleveland teams, whenever Spoelstra ended up playing against LeBron early in his career, or actually after he left Miami, one of the things you have to go ahead and take into consideration is the fact that his screen partner now is Anthony Davis. He didn't have that player of that caliber whenever he played in Cleveland.
Right.
Kyrie wasn't setting screens for him. Love was pretty much just kind of camping out over by the 3-pointers.
You could say Tristan Thompson maybe, but just not at the same level.
He's not a pick and pop player.
Right.
He's going to go ahead and pick. He can pick somewhere around the 3-point line, but he's going to go ahead and take off over to the base, over to the rim. So he'll roll after. With Anthony Davis, they're going to have to go ahead and make sure that they keep that shot honest. Because if you look, a lot of the shots that Anthony Davis takes is anywhere between like that 8-foot to about 15-foot range. So it's that mid-range game that Anthony Davis is going to really possess. That's going to go ahead and take care of that pick and roll. It's not even a pick and roll. It's going to be a pick and pop, where he's just going to go ahead and turn around. That ball is going to possibly be waiting for him. Plus, Anthony Davis can go ahead and pass out of that if they're going to go ahead and double him or double LeBron. They're going to have an opportunity to go ahead and find shooters in the wings. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. And LeBron hasn't had that player. He's had a multitude of talent. Maybe Chris Bosh, but even Chris Bosh didn't really play that game.
I wasn't high on Chris Bosh, and that's why I don't consider that Miami Heat dynasty a super team, in my opinion. I felt it was more LeBron and D Wade, and then Chris Bosh was also there, but I didn't feel like it was at the same level of a super team because of Bosh. I feel like now it's not even a super team; it's just two great players. But we have seen that they have kinks in the armor to where they can be defeated. I mean, they're not unstoppable. And I feel like this Miami Heat team, I was thinking from the very beginning, when the Heat won against the Celtics and they moved on, I was like, look, I don't know if they have any chance against Lakers. But then you start thinking about it, it's Erik Spoelstra. He's defensively sound, and he knows LeBron so well. But it's also how scrappy and how ugly this Miami Heat team makes it defensively. Think about those early games against Boston to where they did not shoot the ball well at all in a full quarter. And they would just go up and down roller coaster offensively, but their defense was always there. And late game situations, Goran Dragic, Jimmy Butler, they may only have maybe 12 points, which is not a superstar level, but they got the turnovers. They got the steals. They made that pressure too much for the teams to handle, and they won those games. They may not have won every game like that if it was just an offensive game, but their defense is so good. And when you look at the struggles that the Lakers had, their biggest competition for me was Houston. And Houston, efficiency-wise, was one of the best in the bubble. They improved tremendously in the bubble defensively. And, of course, their guards are going to score points. So when you look at that same matchup here, you look at, can they play scrappy defense, tough defense? Yes, Miami can do that. And if Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson can get hot early, you can see that game 1, game 2 going the way of Miami. In the long term, the size of Anthony Davis is what's going to be important. And I'm ready to see that matchup between Bam Adebayo and Anthony Davis.
Sure.
But I also think that one guy that really will stand out in this series, and we should look out for, is JaVale McGee.
Because I don't think Adebayo is going to go ahead and start. I don't think Anthony Davis is going to play Adebayo. I don't think so. I think they're going to go ahead and slide him to the 4, and then at that point you're going to have JaVale McGee, and then you're also going to have Dwight Howard play Bam. You're not going to have Anthony Davis at one point or another. He'll play him. He's going to probably end up finishing the game against him. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the person who's going to be, they're going to guard him the majority of the time. It's going to be McGee and it's going to be Howard. It's not going to be Anthony Davis.
I love the length and the versatility that JaVale McGee, even though he gets all the criticism in the world, is like that makes sense to me as far as like the wingspan and the length that Bam Adebayo does for Miami. It's the same thing that JaVale does for LA. So I think
to a significantly lesser pace.
Yes. I mean, like Calipari did talk about Bam Adebayo and talking about he created a position. He was talking about this on TNT with Charles Barkley. He was saying that he's a point center. He can guard anybody on the court, and you can put him anywhere on there, offensively, defensively, and that's what I love about Bam. And what really hurt the Nuggets against the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals was offensive rebounds and second chance points. Do you really think that Bam Adebayo is going to give those second chance points and not get those rebounds compared to Jokic and some of those other Nuggets players? I think Bam does better in that instance. So that's very important as well. But I think it all comes down to not LeBron, not Jimmy Butler. It's those second, third guys that are going to be productive.
I read an article somewhere where it said, it's I think somebody ended up talking about the fact that Miami's got a better team, and it's like, well, let's kind of look at the way the playoffs, not even the playoffs. Let's just look at the way the NBA is constructed. You're top heavy, and then at that point, once you're top heavy, then you have to go ahead and figure out your role players, and that's usually the way the NBA has been played. So if we're looking at the top heavy, obviously the Lakers probably have arguably the number 1 and the number 2 best players in this series. They have LeBron, they have Anthony Davis. I don't see anybody on the Miami Heat who's as good as those two. And then you start going to the other players. you start going to Jimmy Butler, you start going to Tyler Hero. Because if I'm going to start, like, more than likely they're probably 3 and 4, but are they significantly more? Even at a 3, even if they're number 3 and the number 4 best players in that series, the Lakers really aren't that far off in terms of role player talent that Miami is. So it's going to be an excellent series. I think the Lakers are going to be able to go ahead and just figure out Miami what they're going to go ahead and do. They did win both games in the regular season, but I almost don't even count those anymore, considering the fact that we've been playing for such a long time.
Right, yeah, and the bubble team is different from the regular season team earlier in the year.
Yeah.
I mean, and Miami is a perfect example of that. You never expected a team like this to play good in the regular season, but once they came in the bubble, it was a whole different, business trip, as Jimmy Butler likes to say. I just really like how the series is going to be defensively minded, and
yes.
I felt like that last year was what really helped the Toronto Raptors win. But you have both sides do it very well, and you may have some ugly games, but I'm okay with that. I'm not looking for 150 points out of a team and then scoring above 100 almost by the end of the third quarter. I'm seeing games that are 89, 87 late in the fourth quarter, and I love that because that's how Miami's gotten to this point. They've made it ugly. They've made it scrappy, and that's why I feel like they can get a few games off the Lakers just by surprising them like that and making LeBron and Anthony Davis work for it. I mean, to the point to where you're getting every small rebound, every small little steal, turnover, like those hard points in the paint too, like getting to the free throw line. I think that's what's going to be important in this game, but I'm really excited for it. But I mean, I like these coaches. I like these coaches a lot.
How much blame do we put on the Boston Celtics for not being able to figure out the Miami Heat? I mean, it's they came in, they had to have been one of the favorites coming into the season, to win it all, and they have the talent to do it. It appears that they have the coach that can take them to the next level, but it's again, it's one of those things that you start looking at it, and it just kind of sounds like right now that Brad Stevens is super safe, and obviously we know by now that Doc was already bounced over with the Clippers. So, is there going to be that? I don't know. Boston has incredible talent, and they just, for whatever reason, they just can't put it together at the end.
I feel like they're slowly but surely doing that. And year by year, they're doing what Philadelphia should have been doing the entire time. They are growing each year, but it doesn't help. And I feel like the moment kind of got to them a little bit, knowing how close they were to get into the finals. For Jason Tatum, who is an outstanding player in this league, to go 0-8, 0-9 from the field multiple times in the series, and not having Jaylen Brown step up, not having Kemba Walker step up. It was disappointing, to say the least, because they were the better team on paper, like you said. And in moments in the series, I was like, Miami is going to get matched up very well, and I don't think they can keep up with this fast Boston team, and especially how inconsistent Miami was throughout the series, shooting-wise. So I was like, okay, it'll go 7, but I feel like Boston will squeeze by and learn a lot from this series. And in the end, they don't do that, but I think it's a very good learning experience for Brad Stevens and Jason Tatum for sure, to say, we were that close. I needed that extra gear. How do I get to that extra gear that'll take some time to grow?
So then you have 4 players. I know Kemba got paid. He got paid whenever he was in Charlotte. Marcus Smart, I believe, ended up just they extended him. So you have Jaylen Brown, you have Jason Tatum coming up. You're not going to be able to keep all 4. You can not. You can keep 3. You can't keep all 4. So that's kind of the thing. And then also think about this. Also, I think I'm almost certain that going into this year, Boston has another. They have like a lot of. They have multiple first round draft choices again. But again, you look at it as like, I think eventually Boston's going to have to figure out how can they pull a trigger on it that like that one superstar that can just kind of like take everybody else under his wing, similar to what Los Angeles did with Anthony Davis. Is like, look, we're going to go ahead and mortgage the future to go ahead and make sure we get Anthony Davis over here. Danny Ainge, I don't know if he's got the moxie in order to want to go ahead and say, look, I have the draft picks, I have some capital here. We can move one of those 4, and then we can go ahead and move some of the draft picks and go out and get somebody that can maybe be the difference maker. And I don't know if Danny Ainge is going to have that. He's got the cojones to go ahead and pull the trigger on that.
I feel like that was sort of what they wanted to do with Gordon Hayward, who is also up for debate. In my opinion, just doesn't.
Yeah, and also a max contract.
Yeah, I don't see Gordon being that max guy. I think he's kind of the lower end of the totem pole, even though he was impressive when he did come back from his leave due to his newborn baby. And for him to come back, he did add a little bit of an extra kick to this offense. But I think all in all, they play better without Gordon, in my opinion.
Yeah, but and then again, you have that's a fix. He's a max guy, so he may not be a max player, but he's got a max contract right now. So you look at him, and it's like eventually they're not going to be able to keep that team together. So that window is going to close, similar to the Clippers. The Clippers technically now they get rid of Doc Rivers. So, and I kind of saw it coming. I think to me, Doc Rivers is probably the most overrated coach in the NBA. I think he did a good job whenever he was with the Clippers. I think he did a decent job when he was with Boston. But you mean to tell me with that team that they ended up constructing, he was able to walk away with 1 championship? I mean, if you think about it, it's like then he goes to the Clippers, and all of a sudden you start looking at that team, and you're like, wait, you mean to tell me that team has never been out of the second round? At one point, you had Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. At one point, you ended up moving away from Blake Griffin, and then you ended up bringing up talent. You ended up bringing some talent in, and then now you waited for Kawhi Leonard, for Paul George, and you still can't get out of the second round. There's a rumor right now that they're going to consider bringing Phil Jackson back. Phil Jackson he's not going to come to the Clippers. He's not. I think the job's going to go probably to like Tyronn Lue.
Yeah,
he's going to be on the short list.
Mm-hmm. Jeff Van Gundy as well, who I've
heard his name. There's also a possibility. How about Mark Jackson? Mark Jackson has actually been on the short list as well on the last like 2 to 3 years in terms of being able to go ahead and apply or interview for these head coaching positions that keep coming up. So you have that team. And Kawhi and PG are only signed until next year. Remember, Kawhi Leonard only signed a 2-year contract. And then I think Paul George, his contract expires after next year as well. So you have Boston's window that's as talented as they are, that it's going to shut at one point. It's almost – and then you have the Clippers who you have Paul George coming out and saying that, well, we really didn't consider this to be a championship or bust year.
Which was terrible.
Which is such a terrible. Like, it's one of those, like, just shut up. It's like, hey, we did our best, disappointed in the outcome, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's got – every professional athlete should have, like that canned, cliched answer ready to go. But the Clippers window's closing as well. And then you're going to have to go ahead and sign some of those guys. And what's to say that that he ends up that Kawhi Leonard doesn't want to play there after next year?
I could definitely see it because it's the turmoil that happened inside the locker room. It wasn't what's on the court and who you have on the bench. Like, their players are great. And yet after that loss to the Nuggets, send them home, Paul George does the rah-rah speech, and everyone just rolls their eyes. They're just turning their back on him. That's not a thing that you can fix unless you bring in a disciplined coach and say, this ain't going to happen anymore. But I feel like the performance on the court, including Paul George, Kawhi Leonard in those late games with the Nuggets, that's unacceptable, and that's got to change, and it's got to be a hard change too. It's not just something that you can bypass and say, oh, it wasn't a championship year. BS. It was a championship year. You were supposed to be the best in the West.
Yeah, every year should be.
Especially with that roster. You can't
Yeah.
You can't tell me that it's not when you have two superstars. I think
correct.
Now you can't say that Paul George is that after his performance, but
what do they call it? Way off P.
uh,
That's the name that started kind of growing. Way off P.
I like the pandemic P as well.
Pandemic.
That was
Yeah, that
fun.
was actually pretty good. I think what would have happened if if the Clippers would have moved a little bit faster, I thought Billy Donovan would have actually been a pretty good coach there.
That is a great hire by the Chicago Bulls. I do like that.
I think so because they have to go ahead and stabilize. They have to right that ship at one point. They have to go ahead and figure out how they can go ahead and because they have talent there. It's just leave it up to somebody. And then again, look at Oklahoma City. They outplayed their I guess the sum of their parts. They really came together as a team. And I think Chicago has enough talent there. And remember, the East isn't that tough. It's not like you don't have to play. Somebody brought this up. Denver comes back next year fully intact, and they may be the fifth best team in the West. Because you have the Lakers, you have the Clippers, Houston can anywhere you want to put Houston. Portland's going to be stronger next year because they're going to be healthier all the way through. Golden State's going to be back, and not only is Golden State going to be back, they're going to have a high draft choice.
Mm-hmm.
So look at this, and you're like, so there's a possibility that Denver makes it to the Western Conference Finals, and next year they may not even be the fifth. They may be the fifth best team in the West. So you don't really have that problem in the East. In the East, you're going to have an opportunity to go ahead and play. And I think if the Bulls just kind of figure out how to get to 500 next year with Billy Donovan, you may have something there,
I'm definitely excited to see, especially with their young talent. Coby White is an impressive young man so far. I think he brings a nice character to that team. But let's route it back to now our prediction for the Lakers and the Heat. Because I'm just gonna be dumb, and I'm gonna say Lakers do not lose Game 2 and Game 7 because they are wearing the Mamba jerseys. They don't lose in the Mamba jerseys.
Oh, they've already determined 2 games with the Mamba jerseys?
Yeah, okay. It's Game 2, Game 7. So they don't lose those. I do see the Heat winning 2 games in the series.
Okay.
So I'm going to say, because, and this is another dumb fact, but I think I've seen it enough times to say this world is crazy, 2020 is crazy, bubble's crazy. But think back to 2009, that season, when the Lakers were the number 1 seed. They played the Nuggets in the playoffs, beat them. Carmelo Anthony back then. They also went against the Houston Rockets in those playoffs, beat them.
Yeah.
Kobe won that ring in Orlando.
Sure.
They're playing in Orlando. And with everything going on, Mamba jerseys, it's Kobe's unfortunate death that has fueled a lot of these players to play great in this bubble. You can't tell me that this isn't a perfect Cinderella story to cap off the remembrance of Kobe and to win it for LA again in the same type of story that he did in 2009. Especially how good LeBron's playing, how Anthony Davis is playing. Alex Caruso is just amazing us every single time. I like the roster. Playoff Rondo is back.
Playoff Rondo, yeah.
That man is doing some great things. I love this Miami Heat team, and I know we've talked about them saying they're the dark horse. Everybody's got to look out for them. And I'm happy for that because they've impressed a lot of people, and I'm excited to see what they do in the future. But I think the celebration tour kind of comes to an end here, and the Lakers win in 6.
Okay. I don't think it goes 7. I don't think it's going to go 7. I was going to go ahead and say Lakers in 6 as well. I just don't see how. I don't see Miami beating them for 4 games. I just don't see it, and I don't see the Lakers losing 3. So I think it's going to go 4-2. I think they're going to go. I think you're going to go ahead and get surprised with how much they're going to go ahead and really eliminate Tyler Hero from this series. I think he's going to average roughly anywhere between, say, 13 points a game. He'll be right around there. I just don't see how he scores more than that because they're going to have a ton of guys flying at him the entire time. They're going to pick him up full court. So he's going to be that one guy that I don't think he's going to be that one guy, but I think there's not going to be a game where they're going to allow him to go off. Danny Green, KCP, even Rondo, Alex Caruso, they'll be ready for him. They're going to be ready for him. And obviously, whenever they get inside of the lane, now they're going to go ahead and they're experiencing a lot of shot blockers in there. They're going to clog up the lane. So my prediction is going to be the same as yours. I think it's going to be Lakers 4-2.
Yeah. I do think it's going to be great here. I do see the Miami Heat winning game 1. I think Erik Spoelstra will outcoach Frank Vogel and catch him off guard. But then, of course, what we've seen in the playoffs so far is that Frank Vogel does adjust very well after a game 1 loss. So
yeah, he does.
He goes back and just builds a whole new type of offense and kind of comes back to life saying Anthony Davis is my key here. It's not LeBron. LeBron will do LeBron. That's not going to change. It's Anthony Davis' performance that will really determine how far and how well we play in this series. But I won't discredit anything that Miami Heat has done, what they will do in the series. I do like this series a lot, but I think at the end, once we reach that point, it'll be kind of the Nuggets type of series where you're like, okay, they're just outmatched. It was a nice run, but it has to come to an end with the Lakers winning it all.
Yeah, and again, look, are we going to go ahead and say that Bam Adebayo is a better player than Jokic? I'm not ready to go ahead and commit to that. So I think the Lakers have seen bigs where they've played them pretty well. So we'll see. The Lakers have a lot of bodies they can go ahead and throw at these guys, and I'm really curious. But I think at the end of the day, I think Miami's still about a year away to go ahead and really, really, really contend. They're super young. They don't have a lot of really bad contracts. Dragic is coming off the book, so. But I don't think with all that's happened in Los Angeles this year, I think at the end of the day or at the end of the series, I think Los Angeles they win one for Kobe.
They do.
Yeah. And I'll be crying like a baby whenever they win that last game, because I think it'll kind of just I guess encapsulate what the year was in terms of with the Lakers, them signing LeBron, the Lakers losing Kobe, this whole bubble. It's interesting because the NBA would have been playing basketball for almost an entire year, because they always start around Halloween, so they're going to finish right around the first and a half week of October. So that's actually
yeah. It's really hard to balance NFL football and the NBA playoffs when you're watching Sunday Night Football and you look and you're seeing the Eastern Conference Finals. You're like, this doesn't feel right. But right. I'm not complaining. I'm going to try to keep up. But the last things that I will say on this before we finish it off is on the Lakers side, they definitely have that mentality of job's not finished, which was that infamous quote by Kobe after going up 2-0 in the finals. Right. Seeing that picture of LeBron sitting down on the court, taking off his shoes and just not looking happy at all. Not celebrating or anything like that. That's encapsulating what's going on in LA. It's that we haven't won anything. It is a championship or bust year in LA, unless you're Paul George, apparently.
Yeah.
On the opposite side, I'm seeing if there's one way that the Miami Heat win, and I know you talked about Tyler Hero breaking him down, not allowing him to get hot. It is Goran Dragic. It is Duncan Robinson's Tyler Hero. It is all based on their guards. Because Houston Rockets gave the Lakers the most trouble because they spread the floor very well and they shot the three-point very well. I mean, at an elite level. So you have to do that if you are Miami. And I know that's not your game plan. That's not how your system works all the time. But this is what needs to happen. You need Tyler Hero to go off for 25+. You need Duncan Robinson to hit 3 out of 4 in a quarter. You need to hit 6 out of 7 in the half. And you need Dragic to hit those clutch threes. And you also need a little bit of help from Jay Crowder. Maybe a little help from Iguodala. Just in that perimeter shooting. I say that's the only way that the Heat win. At the end of the day, though, you know who the real winner is?
Who?
Dion Waiters. Because no matter what happens, this man's getting a ring.
He gets a ring.
Good for him. Good for him.
Yeah, no matter what, he's walking away with the ring either way. Good for him, yeah.
It'd be nice to see Dwight Howard to get his first ring.
Yeah, I think so. It'll be Yeah, for everything's actually he's been through. I didn't realize that his that the mother of his child passed away.
Oh.
Yeah, he's got a 6-year-old. So he's got a 6-year-old son with him in the bubble. His mom, the Dwight Howard's, I guess, girlfriend at the time, she passed away. She actually had a seizure, and that's part of the reason why he said it's been very tough. And I don't know who else is in there in the bubble with him. I just know his 6-year-old son is in the bubble with him. I just don't know who else is in there with him. But his son's mother passed away of an epilepsy sometime in May. Yeah, sometime in May she passed away.
Damn.
Yeah.
Just think of it like in his career where he had those great years in Orlando and just bounced around for the rest of his time. He went to LA the first time. Really did not play well, did not mesh well with Kobe. Then he goes to Houston and doesn't mesh well there. Bounces around, goes to Washington, now found his way back to LA. And I know he's not the same player he was, but I think he proved a lot of people wrong in that Nuggets series where he was finally utilized. He wasn't used at all in that Houston Rockets series because it didn't fit. There was no real strategy to having big men on the floor. And then the way that JaVale McGee, especially Dwight Howard, how they played against the Nuggets, it's really nice to see him bounce back and to go through all of this on and off the court.
Yeah.
And have probably the strongest chance he's ever had at winning the title. Yeah,
it feels good for Dwight Howard because I was there when they brought him in, and then he ended up pissing me off. Whenever they brought it was I thought it was going to be like the next super
Kobe
put together. Yeah, because remember they also brought in Steve Nash. Whenever they had him, that it would have been nice, but it just Dwight Howard or Steve Nash just were never healthy. So because they were never healthy, we ended up getting a horrible year for Kobe, and that was the year that he blew his Achilles.
Yeah. There's one picture, and this is how we're going to finish it off. Because you are a Lakers fan.
Yes, I am.
I want you to remember the hard times. Because those were the beginnings of the hard times.
Are you going to show me a picture of Robert Sacre?
What picture is that?
He was that dude that they signed, that they drafted out of Gonzaga. That guy was we were in the worst.
I know you can't really see it, but he's laying down on the bench.
Oh, that was what was his name?
That I could never. I just remember.
Hold on, I know his name.
I googled Laker laying down on bench because I remember that.
Wait, he used to play for the Clippers.
Google went off. Hold up.
He used to play for the Clippers. Something with a K. No, I'll get it, and I'll text you eventually. But it's like I remember that whenever I saw that, and I was like, how horrible is this?
No, those were hard times. I will tweet that.
Yeah.
The moment the Lakers win the finals, and I will say, only real Lakers fans know the pain.
Yeah. I remember that.
You are.
Well, we'll see. There's still need 4 more wins. That's what I'm looking forward to. 4 more wins.
Job's not finished.
Job's not finished.
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it for this episode of the Bubblehead Sports Podcast. Thank you, Navarro. From the streets of El Paso, the nice scenery of the background, Connect 4. If you want to hop into a game, head over to his backyard.
Thanks, guys.
All right. We'll see you next time. This has been episode 170 of the Bubblehead Sports Podcast. Follow, subscribe, donate to the GoFundMe for Irving's cancer treatment. I'll leave a link in the description below. And we will see you next time on the Bubblehead Sports Podcast.
Yeah, hold on. Tell me who's your top 5 quarterbacks right now, dead or alive, huh? And how much do you care about a ring if the best player got carried by the team? Now would you lose if it been a better draft pick? And do you cuss when your team get their ass kicked? Now do you keep it classy or you keep it ratchet?